Okay, welcome back to another podcast episode. This is Lead Stronger Longer. We empower you to purposefully lead your life, personally and professionally. My guest today is David Brennan. He is an ultra runner, a serial entrepreneur, and a technologist. David founded his latest company, Arkeo AI, in San Francisco, and he is passionate about AI. And he's passionate about how it's going to be able to be used in the future. This is why he is on my show today, because I am very excited to learn this topic from someone who is excited and passionate about it. Okay, welcome, David.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
This is like my favorite topic, so I
That
try
is
and
why
keep
you're
it
here, because
within the
it's not
realm.
mine.
Oh, excellent. Well, hopefully by the time we're done, you will like it.
That will be an interesting feat, but we'll go for it. Okay,
Okay.
let's start off with your favorite quote or mantra.
My favorite quote, and I always mess this one up, but it goes something like the thing you want the most is the in the doing of the thing that you fear, or it's hidden in the cave. It's one of those ones, but it's really just broken down. It's when we go through life, if you can just break through those things that are stopping you, the 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 fear, the built-in limiting mechanisms, everything you want's on the other side. So that's it.
I love it. And as you were saying that, I am really going to flip the switch on that lens for AI. Not that it's got a bad rep. I'm really good friends with ChatGPT. I'm very nice to it just so it doesn't come back later and like decide that I'm one of the humans that needs to be annihilated. Okay. So look, I want to know what led you to your specialization and this passion that you have for AI.
So I have been in business since I was 20, but you can trace it even further back because both my parents were entrepreneurs. And I remember being like 14 years old at my parents' RV park, which is a big campground for RVs. And I remember in the Yukon selling gold to the tourists that were coming through, the American tourists coming through, and loving it. Like my dad and I would compete. And I don't know if he knew I was competing, but I sure as heck was. Always highly competitive human. Um, but that was like the beginning of my love of business and just there was always something new and interesting. And so I founded multiple companies and actually got into technology from oil and gas in 2016 and started my first software company. And so that company we grew, and of course you make every mistake you could imagine when you first start into the industry. But we got pretty good at it. And so in 2022, we just purchased one of our competitors, and in the rolling up process, we were looking for ways to optimize safety evolution. And so we really dug in to AI and automation and all that in the beginning of 2023 when ChatGPT came out. And so we actually were able to 2x and sometimes 3x our productivity with the existing tools just that were available. But we were looking at the future of how companies would be run. And we could see that with large language models and the way that you could process data with them, combined with other systems, that this would really kind of be the future. And so we started building Arkeo, and the first version went out in November. And so it went out with 10 beta test companies, but it really opened up our eyes to like how much you could do with AI. And so we've been just digging into it. That's what brought me to San Francisco. And of course, this is where I will say the hub of it is. Like there's just so many people in the space right now. And yeah, that's the journey into how I got into AI.
Okay, so you said 2 to 3 times productivity increase. Can you tell me specifically how? We're going to go off on a little thread here.
So a big portion of what we did, like I'll give you a couple examples. So anytime you want to scope a project, there's a huge amount of work that goes into it. So you could say that, like, if we were doing a development project, it would take probably 20 or 30 hours to scope it. By the time you filled out all the documentation and you created the plans and all that. So you can reduce that part down to probably 2 hours now. And that's just with like current, it's pretty simple to do. You just do your normal planning meetings with your on record, run that through a series of prompts, and it'll create all your documents from what you talked about in that meeting. So that's been a big change, because now you're able to take these tasks that were pretty manual in it and just go more into the creative side of it, and what humans are really good at, and that's like solving problems and being creative and understanding the market that they're in. And so that's one use case. Another one that I personally use it for all the time is like my quarterly rocks. So I used to spend probably, I bet you, 4 hours building out the plans and the deliverables on those. I can do them now in 15 minutes. So it's any stuff like that. There's huge wins to be had.
That's by entering the data, correct? You're
That's by
entering.
using prompts that we've created and ChatGPT or whatever your large language model is, to like speed up the process of creating it, right? Because really,
And
if you think
synthesizing?
about,
Is it
yeah,
synthesizing? Because this is,
yeah,
so I wrote an article, naive as I am on it. Is AI a tool created by the blinded to lead the blind? Now, it was a little facetious, but what I noticed is, depending on what was entered in, would come back. And so when you're saying the prompts, let's say, for example, you're creating, and this is really interesting, quarterly rocks,
mhm,
and you've entered in the data of what your values are, your purpose, etc. I mean, I'm assuming that that's what you would do, right?
yeah,
And then you're asking it to create a battle plan for you, essentially, based on.
yes, yeah. You could think of it exactly like that. I'll say I will touch on something there because I thought you said something really interesting. Um, it's a tool for the blind leading the blind. I will say, if you're blind, like
Well,
not
blind
as in
dead,
that, but like,
right?
yeah, but it's like it's a really cool thing because it's garbage in, garbage out. It's only a processor. I think that's the interesting part that a lot of people, um, this is the education piece, I would say, for most people. Current large language models are a tool. They're no different than any other complex software that we've created so far, other than they're really good at language processing. And so when you put in, if you go into ChatGPT and you say, create me a marketing plan, and that's all you put into it, it creates you a generic marketing plan that would probably look like it came out of a textbook at a university, because that's what it is. It's a template. But if you go into ChatGPT and you say, this is our ideal customer profile, this is who we sell to, this is what the product is, this is the problems that we solve, this is the team, and this is their responsibilities, create me a marketing plan for the next 30, you know what I mean? Now, all of a sudden, you've given it really strong parameters, and it can be very useful because it can do that with that information. But that's the piece. It's like, we teach people all the time that what you need to get good at is like communication, because the new language is, or the new development language is what you and I are doing right now, right? That this is the future, and I think it's going to be really neat because it's going to level the playing field for a lot of people in a lot of places to do some really neat things, um, and be way more creative, because the amount of effort that it will take for them to do something will be significantly reduced. Like those repetitive tasks that just kind of suck all the time out of your day, go away. So
Yeah,
that's my rant.
that's that's what I've experienced for sure with the
Yeah.
little bit that I'm doing with my good friend Chatty. So the crucial early mistake that I love to ask my guests is because we learn so much about your, sorry, but your major pitfalls, those key challenges you faced. And it sounds, you mentioned a couple of them, but let's stay with it relevant to AI. And then I do want you to touch on, because you lead with this, that you're an ultra runner. And I know in my world, in terms of, high performance, high stress, highly driven, and that's who you are, that high recovery time is what I'm an advocate for. And so I'm wondering how that fits in. So I want you to kind of tie that in, if you can, with that experience. Let's
That's a
see.
big one. Okay, say it one more time and I'll see if I can put it out.
Yeah,
I
so
got the ultra running that
because I
side of
know
it,
there's
and
there's something to this. And I always find and discover these key pieces around leadership, an entrepreneur who's innovating. What mistake did you make? You said you made some mistakes, but if there's one that just stands out that you could share with us that you learned so much from as a result.
I will say so. There's a couple things. There's the one thing that I tell every person that's creating software, um, especially early stage founders, and that is the importance of how much you need to talk to your customer and the questions that you need to ask. Um, because my biggest mistake right off the bat with safety evolution was I thought I knew, I was a safety professional, worked in the field, and of course I thought I knew exactly what they needed, and that was a mistake, a massive one. And so it took us probably 2 years to fix the software from that. And so I think that really kind of set the foundation for me going into Arkeo and everything else that I do now. It's really about curiosity and going in, and I might have my beliefs or what I think is the answer, but I'm always testing that. I'm always, it's a hypothesis. It's not a, it's, it's like I have strongly, or no, I have strong beliefs loosely held, right? And so um I'm pretty sure I know, but I'm really open to you telling me I'm wrong and showing me why. And so that really that shift in mindset is definitely been the biggest piece and takeaway. And so I think once I moved out of that, and I had some friends in my friends group that were really into high performance, like triathletes and all of that. Once I connected with them, I started to put together the pieces on how important it was to actually put physical exercise into this whole new way of looking at the world. So that definitely, because my mind shift had like moved into a more curious way. I remember I used to say things like, the only way I'm running is if something's chasing me, that kind of stuff, right? But that's just like, that's one of those things that you've conditioned in your mind. And so once you actually break out and you start to become curious, then you see the world in a whole different way. And so I think the funny thing about getting into ultra running, I started 3 years ago, and I was actually on a hike, and my friend Pam said, "Hey, you want to run a half marathon?" And I'd always wanted to run marathon, and I never done it because you just don't do those things. And because I was open, I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then once I started to run, I realized that that was my meditative space, and that was the place that, for me, that's how I shift my energy. If I'm stressed, if I'm tired, if I'm in the trenches, and you're just working through the most challenging opportunity that you have to solve, um, going for a hour and a half, 2 hour run is a great way to still still the external body so that you can just use your mind.
Yeah, that's so good. And I firmly believe that. I was really into it in the 80s, not so much now, but I think that that is a key piece and probably does balance the whole AI, right? We get so cerebral, and if we can't stay connected to the physical body. So I like that. When I saw that, the kind of like the three pieces for you, I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. And I think that that is a key to leading stronger, longer, having that piece of the puzzle. So you said talking to your customers and clear communication, and then you brought it into staying curious. That is super key. But how did you handle that and address the communication? You said it took you a couple of years to recover from that initial early mistake of not asking your customers. So can you unpack that just a little bit? And what tools did you use, like survey? And is that something we would use AI for to maybe get the clear communication? A lot of times people won't ask the questions because they don't know what to ask the customers, or they won't communicate because they don't know what to ask or how to ask, or so I'm curious if you use AI to kind of sort through that and help with that staying curiosity and staying in that space of investigation, right? Looking. And what else did you say? Those strong beliefs loosely held. I love that. I love that. Knowing where you stand, but also being willing, like bamboo type of thing. It's really good. Was I clear on my question?
Yeah, I can go into it. So I think we use AI quite a bit in this stuff. Where we're seeing some really neat things happening is in being able to go in and like relook at a conversation and understand if you did dig deep enough. We use AI at Arkeo to do a lot of we dive into like what really was said in the conversation, what the interviews could have actually been about. We compile large amounts of interviews and conversations with AI. From a product standpoint, we have it pretty much included in all of our processes when it comes to how we assess what we're saying, whether it was meaningful, what the user could possibly be using our products for in the future. And I think it's really neat because there's a couple cool products out there. A friend of mine in Vancouver, DJ's come out with this AI that actually asks the questions. And so it's set up so that it will naturally dig into specific things. And so that's an interesting one. I haven't quite, we're testing it a little bit, but we like the human to human interaction in the interview question type conversations, because there's, first of all, I think it's important for us to keep humans in this whole process. We're not trying to replace humans. What we're trying to do is replace the less meaningful tasks that eat up your days, so you can't be in that productive creative space where you should be, or doing the things that you like. So yeah, when we're doing those interviews with customers, that we definitely use AI. I think it's been a what we want to be able to do and what the tools are allowing us to do are kind of like lagging a bit, but we're seeing some really cool ones. My friend Barack has a company called Spiky AI. And so what they're doing is actually you can create a template of what you want out of the conversation, like our conversation here, and then you would be able to actually run it through and see if you hit the points that you needed to, or if there was new things that you needed to go and ask. So the technology's coming. It's just really, really young, right? Like we had a hard reset in technology in like January 2023. So it's been, when ChatGPT came out, that's when there was like this sudden reset where everyone was kind of like, okay, now we have this capacity to build all these new types of products. And so you're going to see over the next, like, probably 2 to 3 months, but you're really going to see it mainstream in the next 12 months. The things that are like, wow, this is incredible. Some of the softwares and tools that people are building down here in San Francisco, and I know around the world. Like I have friends in Toronto and around the rest of the world, and you're going to see some absolutely mind-blowing technology that is going to be really incredible for founders and leaders to be able to supply to their teams.
Yeah, that's exciting. And I will tell you what you said relieved some of the anticipation and also the worry that I have had since it came out, since Chatty came out. And you said it's not to replace the human to human contact. And this is key. I've never heard anyone say that. I will be honest with you. In everything that I have seen of folks coming out and using AI is that it is to replace jobs. It's going to put this amount of people out of jobs. It's going to replace this. It's going to replace that. And you just shifted it completely and said, no, it's not to do that. It's to replace the less meaningful tasks. And I think that instantly can empower. And then all of a sudden it frees up the amazing creative juice that each of us, I believe, innately have to go and create something bigger, better, more wonderful, a better impact, more positive, right? And so I can see why you're passionate.
Yeah, we really believe it's going to amplify human capacity. That's what it's going to do. It's going to be, it will allow you to do more, create more, be more, because you will have, I'll give you an example. So you're a first-time founder, you are starting a software company. You've never done it before. So if you look at the ecosystem now, you have thousands of accelerators and incubators that are there to help you and mentor you, right? Which is great. But imagine if you had like the smartest human being who knew just about everything there that you could talk to. So now when you're trying to figure something out and you're having a conversation, you don't like, there's a lot of things that lock us up as human beings, like looking stupid, that's a great one. So now you have this tool that you can communicate with that can help you with, you're like, I want to build this, what should I do? And it's like, well, make sure you go and you talk to the customer. Who are you trying to sell to, right? And it's like, so this is like this shift from it's going to take everything away to it's going to actually support you in the things that you want to do mentality. And so when we look at Arkeo, what we're building a tool that a small team can be super successful and compete against the biggest players in the world. That's what our mantra is. Like, imagine if you had 10 people and you're competing with, $1 billion company, because you have the ability that your team does the really important things. They're working on the high value creative, and going and doing a manual task like creating a social media post, like typing it all out and putting it into the thing and posting it and scheduling it. That's all automated. So now what they're doing is creating the content that's meaningful for that actual, right? They're doing the video, they're walking you through the product. It's just one example, but that's where the future will be. And so it's going to be a really, really amazing place for creatives, for people that want to do extraordinary things, because they're going to have tools like they never had before.
I've seen a little bit of it, and I'm going to play devil's advocate with you just for a little bit, because I think that the key to this, as you said, was the implementation and the application of it, because we could implement it just for the sake of implementing. And I've played with it as much. Talk about going into the dark cave, right? I was avoiding it completely, and then I did it, and I literally, like, within 2 hours of playing with a couple things, like, you're my best friend. You're just so wonderful. Thank you so much. And then they respond back to me. It's my pleasure, and have a great one. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. So the thing though is the understanding that it requires us to still be personally responsible, not only for the input that we put in there, but how we interpret what it is giving us instead of us just copy paste, go to the next thing. And that is what I think my fear is. And it is that I can now read someone's copy, or I can read a post and know they just copied that and pasted it in, right? And they didn't look at it and really understand the nuances of their own brand, their own emotions. And branding, what is, that's emotion, right? That feeling, that emotion. So when you keep bringing up that it is that piece around understanding and that standpoint of asking the question and being able to apply it with this place of understanding. Something else you said, which was, if a leader or a first-time founder created that checklist so they don't look stupid, and then they have a checklist and they're operating off of that so they don't look stupid. But the thing is, if they just go and copy something without understanding or really integrating it for themselves, they are going to be stupid, right? And that, do you know what I mean?
I do. I think it's an interesting one because when we look at like, I will use my own example. I looked stupid for a long time. I just didn't know it. And I still look stupid all the time. So I got no issues with that. I do things all the time that I'm sure people that are like further along in the journey look at me and they're like, geez, I remember when he did that. Or I did that, or wow, I know where you're at. And I think that's like
So
an
give us an
interesting.
example. What did you do that looked stupid? Because I can't imagine it. But I mean, I'm curious because I know what I think I do that looks stupid. Like this, I'm like, oh, I'm such a.
Well, I don't know what I do now because I don't know what I don't know, but I know that I definitely know I do stuff. But I know like when I look back, and I had a conversation the other day and I was talking to a founder and they're like, no, I know I'm in this space. I know exactly what to build. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be painful. This is gonna hurt a lot for you. You're in for an amazing lesson, and it's gonna change you fundamentally if you learn it. But you're about to go into, you're gonna learn something.
Okay,
Because
but
I
you're also,
know
you're
I said
saying
the
this in
same
your own
thing.
head.
Yeah, because
You're not
I
telling
said the
them,
same.
right?
Oh, I tried.
Oh,
I
you
tried
tried.
to
Okay,
explain
okay, just
because what I
checking
had
because
said to him is I said you should really talk to your customers more, because you might find that they don't like what your idea is, and they're like, no, I had this problem and I'm going to build it for me. And I'm like, well, that's good. Let me tell you a little story. I said the same thing, and then it cost me 2 years trying to fix that. So you should go talk to your customer because you might be solving your problem, but they might not have that problem. And so then I'll expand on it. I try and make sure that when I hear those things, I say, but I know that I'm sure other people heard me say those things early on, and they probably tried to tell me. I know I had a coach named Larry, and I remember the conversation well where he was telling me about going and talking to the customers. And I just didn't get it. I didn't understand. And, 2.5 years later, I got it. But sometimes you just don't know enough to process what the other person's trying to tell you. So yeah, that's my.
all right. That's really good. That's good. I mean, there's so much to this because it's 100% true. And it doesn't take that much to really just have a conversation. I wonder
No,
what that is. There's probably some kind of block that we don't want to ask. I mean, I even
ego.
don't do it. I don't do it. I'm thinking, I really should ask my customers. They would probably tell me exactly what I'm doing. I'm spending all this time trying to figure it out with and thinking Chat GPT is going to give me the perfect answer. And they give me great answers, but they may be completely irrelevant to my customer. And that's so, so true. What an amazing point. Thank you for this. Okay. So you've given a lot of advice for leaders to lead stronger, longer, but is there something that just really stands out that you want to share?
I what would I like to share? I think the biggest thing, like going with like leading and being in it, is the mindset that it's a journey, right? Like we're really, this is about us learning, and I don't think you ever can stop that or change that, like make that not your mindset, right? If you really care about people, you care about leading your team, being the best version of yourself, as my friend says, Dan, the 10.0 version of you, right? Then that's a moving goalpost. It's not like, oh, I got there, now I'm that version of me. No, it's like, okay, I unlocked that level, and now I'm going to go back to work and do it again and do it again and do it again. I think that's the fun part about this. So I encourage everybody to work on themselves first. I think that's the most important thing. Unlock yourself as a human being. Figure out what are the things that you do through your subconscious or unconsciously, and start dealing with that, and then go to work, because you have an amazing potential inside yourself if you are willing to put in the work to unlock it.
Different than what I thought this was going to be about, this conversation with AI and your passion for AI, because that's what I'm passionate about, is showing up as the best version of you. And that's really the best way to lead, right? Lead yourself first. And I honestly thought you were going to say, no, I think you should actually put a chip in your brain the AI will take over and help you. And you're like, that's not. So this is okay. You've achieved something here. I am definitely going to look at it differently. And I think it's also that who we work with. So I'll be looking forward to seeing those companies like yours that create AI and utilize it in a way that's actually empowering, supporting us as men and women and as humans, and to help us evolve and unpack ourselves in that way, right? That's so good. Okay,
Yeah.
your go-to book.
Oh wow. The Mountain Is You. Yeah, that's a good one. And then I would say, if you're an entrepreneur, I will say, if you're a startup, if you're a founder and you're struggling, you should buy my friend Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time, because that will unlock your capacity to move to the next level in running company. Great practical framework on how to like really move to the next level.
Outstanding. And The Mountain Is You.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of it. Who's the title?
It is, man, I
I'll
cannot
have to find
remember.
it, but
Yeah, but
okay.
I will say what it's really about is like looking, instead of blaming the world for where you're at, looking inside yourself and understanding why. There's systems that we as human beings have that we use, and we justify things that happen. And so this is a way to look at the things that happen in your life and understand that you are the reason why they happen. It's really helpful. It will unlock you.
So I'm still kind of I was thinking we were going to be talking about technical and computer and like really get all into that. And this is so not that. This is so it's my stuff. This is like it's the, what do they call it? It's not woo woo, but it's that, to me, it's the deliciousness of who we are and our essence, and discovering this. Well, it goes back to the quote you said of going into the cave and being okay with
Mm-hmm.
and facing that fear. And so thank you. Okay. This has been really, really
Yeah.
good. I'm going to have to process
I
this
would,
and listen to it.
yeah,
So
I'll say like the really neat thing, like this is where we see, like we have a lot of conversations around AI and the future of AI. And we see it as a tool that's going to allow people to move to the next level and be able to do things that, how much your day is spent doing tasks that are not in alignment or not really that meaningful, right? We do them because we have to do them. We do them because they're necessary to make a company run. But that's all they are. They're just like this this repetitive stuff, and they eat up resources, and they eat up creativity, and they eat up energy. So imagine being able to replace or take that and get back that energy and that creativity and use it on meaningful things. I think that's where we really see the future of AI going, because there's companies now that, like, we're not the only ones that are doing it. And that's what I see here in the Bay Area, is incredibly passionate, creative human beings looking for ways to take large language models. I'm not going to say AI yet, because we don't have artificial intelligence. We have a tool, a large language model, that allows us to process data very, very quickly. We don't have artificial intelligence. And so that tool is going to help us replace a lot of things. Just like, a good example is 20 years ago, the fax machine came out, right? And so before that, we had to send a document across, and it took a long time. And now, how many people actually use the mail? Not nearly as many, right? We have all of these things. Well, those are all tools. Large language models are the same thing. They're tools that we're able to put into software systems so that we're able to decrease certain tasks that are low value and allow us to unlock high potential people.
Yeah, very well said. I'm shifting in my viewpoint around it, in that, and I like how you said it, it's not artificial intelligence, and defining it in that way so that we can understand, because that nomenclature that we use can really hang us up. And I think for me that is probably what it is, because we'll see the robots and we'll see these other pieces, and that's not the same thing. So what you're doing, yeah. So what you're doing is really powerful. I'm really, I'm looking forward to learning more about this. And I would love for folks to know how they can reach out to your company, or stay in touch with you, maybe follow your path.
So we implemented in September or October a build and open policy. So everything we do is updated on my LinkedIn, company Arkeo AI, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of the socials. So you can follow us there. You can sign up for our wait list for V2, which goes live here in April if you're a SaaS founder, at arkeoai.com. And and if you're in San Francisco, come to one of the events. I do a founders dinner every 2 weeks, and usually do a big networking event. We had 180 people at the one last night. So
Wow, that's amazing. David, thank you so much for your time. Where do you run, by the way? Are you running across the bridge and then somewhere in the...
I run along the Embarcadero, and then, like,
Okay.
on my long runs, I run through the Marin headlands and any trails. I got about a 25-kilometer run tomorrow, so it'll be fun. Anybody wants to run in San Francisco, reach out.
That's very cool. Thank you again, David. Appreciate you. Appreciate your time.